This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality.
To express is that we must respect the dignity of every person. And the fact to be homosexual doesn't mean that this dignity must be not recognized and promoted.
Mo Bergefell, the lead plaintiff and face of this historic case, fought on behalf of his marriage to his now deceased husband, John.
It's my hope that the term gay marriage will soon be a thing of the past, that from this day forward, it will simply be marriage. I love you. This is for you, John.
Do you think homosexuality is a sin?
I think that it's unnatural. I think
being gay and lesbian or whatever, homosexual, is wrong according to the Bible. It's wrong.
Well, even if you believe that, though, his words that they should be put in an electrified fence, don't you think that's a little dramatic and a little rude and a little scary?
No, because his point and reasoning was to see if they reproduce.
We do want to update you on the breaking news out of Orlando, the terror attack on a gay nightclub. Right now, at least 20 are dead.
For my documentary, I chose the topic of homophobia in Catholic schools. And for this, I wanted to get both sides of the story. The first side being the Catholic social teaching, and the second side being the side of a gay person who attends Catholic school. For the first side, I interviewed Ms. Coffer, who is the theology teacher at Antonian College Preparatory. So, what is the Catholic social teaching on homosexuality?
As people, it's the same as anyone else. It's all the issue that we end up having is with actions, right? So, like, anytime we're not married to someone, we're having sexual activity with them, no matter who we're attracted to and who we're having sexual activity with, it's not okay. Mm-hmm. But just being homosexual is not sinful in and of itself.
Okay. Yeah. And then what does the Catholic Church say about homophobia?
I don't know that it says anything about that specifically, but it certainly has said that if we're being rude or disrespectful to people in any way, that's not okay. Everyone was made with inherent dignity and should be treated as such.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. For the second side of this, I tweeted this on February 20th, and I got 2 responses. One being from Gabby Garza, who graduated last year from Antonian, and the second being from Robert Smith, also known as Robbie, who went to Antonian for 2 years and then transferred to O'Connor. Cool. So I have a couple questions, and then, okay. So first question, what do you identify as?
I identify as bisexual.
Cool. So how long were you at Antonian, and what year did you graduate?
I was at Antonian for all 4 years, and I graduated this last May.
Cool. What's your relationship with, like, religion? Are you, like, a Catholic, or did you kind of, like, shy away from, like, that?
So I grew up Catholic, and I was really involved with, like, acts and stuff through all of high school. But I feel like there has been, like, a distance within, like, my relationship with the church since a lot of people, like, who are Catholic don't really accept it so much. Mm-hmm. So I definitely feel like more of an outsider. Yeah. I don't want to, like, throw it away completely, because I don't feel, like, comfortable with that, just because, this is, like, a part of me, but it just feels different sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. What was your experience in Catholic school? Like, did you get, like, bullied because of, like, what you identify as? Like, did you hear, like, snide, like, remarks from people? Like, was there anything like that?
So I didn't come out, like, while I was in high school, just because I was, like, scared of it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew people in my class who were, and just the way, like, people would talk about them made me so scared, like, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And it's almost underground, kind of, like, the way people, like, discuss it. Nobody's really, like, open about, like, not liking gay people. But, like, that judgment is still there, and I received more judgment, like, from people in my class after we graduated. Mm-hmm. But not so much like while I was at Antonian.
I know because we had to take religion classes. When we would talk about, gay people or like stuff like that in religion classes, did that ever bother you?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't think I can talk about it because it was an axe thing, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Not gonna do that, but yeah, and it kind of like they assume that everybody in the room isn't.
Yeah.
And people who like have an opinion on it that isn't maybe the nicest thing to hear. It's kind of ruins like the rest of your day, and it's on your mind.
So I know since you're involved in acts, did you feel like you were like not the same as people that were in acts because of like what you identify as? Because that's like a very like religious thing to do.
It like kind of on the group. My mom is calling me. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. So it kind of depended on the group because I had friends who kind of joined later on who I was like close with, and they knew like within it I knew people who had certain kinds of like opinions on it, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable opening up that much. And like it's weird to think about it like that because like a lot of those people know my whole like life story and like the things that really, I don't know, like shook me up. But yeah, I definitely felt like a disconnect with some of the people there.
Mm-hmm. Would you give people like advice on like if they're in a similar situation as you, like they're not out, like, and they keep hearing like all this stuff being said about like something that they are?
I think it's okay to be scared. It's not, I don't want to say like give that advice to just like come out, because it's for some people it's a big step, and for other people it's not. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive family. So I've never felt the need to like make it a big deal with them and everything, but I'd say probably have some allies around. That's really important. I didn't really start telling people till maybe junior year, and I told like my closer friends. So I had people there like who were supporting me, and I felt like they had my back, and I didn't feel this need to like spread everybody I knew.
Yeah. Like, what would you say to people who are homophobic and like who say stuff and like don't realize there's people around them?
I got this one. I always like to like remind people that Jesus hung out with like prostitutes and tax collectors. Like he hung out with people who were treated like dirt, and they were seen as kind of like the outcast of society. And it kind of just like, I'm stumped to like, I don't even know what to say to people who are so certain in their faith, but they're so judgmental about like people who are gay, because that's like the least Christ-like thing I can think of, is putting somebody down just because you don't necessarily understand. It's pretty much just ignorance. Like people don't understand anything about it, and they don't want to like educate themselves, and it's weird to see that people don't implement their faith.
I think that's all my questions. Do you have any ending words?
Be nice to people. You never know what's going on in their lives, and like the things people say, they're gonna remember. Like just because it wasn't said to my face, I remember what people say, and I'm gonna remember it for a long time. So.
Okay, Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
No problem.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for doing this.
Of course. Anything to help you.
First question, what do you identify as?
So I identify as a gay, non-binary male. So for non-binary, it's more of like I just really don't conform to a gender. I don't want to. I just like, I'm just me. I'm just Robbie. Like, I don't care if like what people call me. Just don't call me it.
What is your relationship with religion?
I'm a very strong Catholic, which is surprising.
Yeah.
For me, but I love Catholicism. I love my faith, and I love God. So I'm pretty strong standing in it still too.
Okay. So how long were you at Antonian for?
I was there for 2 years.
2 years, and then you transferred to O'Connor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the difference between Antonian and O'Connor? And were people at Antonian more mean or like homophobic, or was O'Connor more homophobic?
So what's funny is I go to a very like yee school.
Yeah.
Like it's very redneck, and everyone there like was always super kind to me, always super welcoming too, and I was very surprised about that because like differentiating from like Antonian to where a lot of people hated on me and called me fag and whatnot, and I wasn't about it. So and then transferring to this new school where everyone was super welcoming and just amazing was just a total like life changer.
What was your experience in Catholic school? Was there like any specific stories that you can like talk about that like really like you remember like?
I mean, in Antonian, I had a lot of great memories. I made a lot of great friends, and I still talk to most of them today. But I mean, memory-wise, I remember just like being in football my freshman year for some reason, and just definitely was not comfortable in that situation. A lot of toxic masculinity and just not a good environment. And then sophomore year, someone like called me out for being gay, and it was just like, okay. Yeah, they were just like being super rude and just like obnoxious about it. And of course, I don't really care. Like, I didn't really care then. I don't care now about like what people say about me. But just like the fact that people are just still doing this just because it's like, oh yeah, he's gay. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I think you already answered this, but like do you think you were bullied because of the way you identified? Would you call it bullying, or would you just call it like snide remarks?
I definitely wouldn't call it bullying, just because it's like, I mean, I didn't feel oppressed or anything like that. Like, I still was the same person I was, and I didn't really care about like what people said. So it was just more like remarks about like, oh yeah, he's gay, or like just stupid cliche things that people would say.
Okay. What would you tell people who are in like the same environment as you? Like, what advice would you like tell them?
I mean, I definitely just say like you'll get through it. Like there's always going to be like so many different and amazing people in your life, and this is just going to seem like just brush it off the shoulder. Like, why did I even worry about that now? Then like you just surround yourself with like amazing people that actually welcome you and love you, and like that's what's going to get you through it.
What would you tell people who are homophobic? Like, what advice would you tell them?
Can't say some of the stuff that I want to say, but basically just like actually study up on what this culture is, like see the difference, like step into the person like that you're actually like oppressing, like step into their shoes and see and live a day in their life and see how hard it is. Like, and then I feel it's like that would just help so many people. It would open so many eyes, just like, okay, yeah, like these people really do go through like a lot of oppression and just a lot of unnecessary I'm not going to say it, but you know, like unnecessary stuff that we don't need to go through. And it's like, it would just help the community so much.
So I know you did ACTS. You were very involved in retreats. How do you think you were, what's the word, like an outsider? Do you feel like an outsider in ACTS because of how like much religion was involved in it, or did you feel like super comfortable? Like,
I felt super at home whenever I did ACTS, and I still do. I love ACTS so much, and it was very much more of a family for me. And those are some of the people that really welcomed me into their lives and like actually loved me for who I was. And it's an amazing community. I loved it.
You were in Antonian for 2 years, so you obviously took religion classes like we all had to. How did it make you feel when we would talk about, you know, people, like when they talk about gay people and how like, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't like be this? Like, did you have like a bad day after it? Did it really stick with you, or did you just brush it off?
I would just brush it off. I really wouldn't care, because I know that a lot of the stuff that the teachers are teaching, it's like, it's old, it's outdated, and it's definitely not up to date. Like, we studied the catechism for like a whole semester my sophomore year, and it was unnecessary, because it's like all of this is so outdated. Like, how are we supposed to go life with this? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I know it's like, oh yeah, it's like from the Pope, it's from God, and like, but it's like at the same time, it's like, well, God really wouldn't want people to be oppressed. Like, why? But here we are.
Yeah. And then just my last question. I know you are a makeup YouTuber. Do you think, because of the exposure that since you're on YouTube, do you think you're prone to being, bullied or having homophobic comments, or do you feel like you've had a really big support system because of it?
I've had a really great support system of it. Of course, there's going to be some people that are going to hate on me wanting to do whatever I want to do, and like me wanting to be who I am. But it's like, at the same time, I really don't care. I've always had a great support system. I'll get the hate, and like I'll just take it, and I don't care. Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. Last
of my questions. Do you have any leaving words?
I do not. Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye, Elena.
Bye. Also, someone who currently goes to Antonian reached out to me and asked to be in my video. They told me to blur their face out and make their voice deeper so that no one would recognize who they were. But at the last minute, they backed out because they were scared that people might find out who they were. And I feel like this is a great way to end this video by just saying to treat everyone with kindness and compassion, just like Jesus told us to, because Jesus told us to love our neighbor as ourselves.